Welcome to MOTS, where we'll be applying the Manzer or mostly Thurlow scale of quantitative analysis of pop culture narrative through a binary system.
Or MOTS! This podcast contains spoilers, mature content, and language. Viewer discretion advised.
Hello and welcome back to MOTS. Tonight we are reviewing Thor Ragnarok. Third Thor film and the 17th overall, I believe.
Sure.
It's been a long run. Well, my name is Rich Perry and I'm here joined with Ian Manzer.
Yep.
Scott Thurlow.
Valhalla, I'm coming.
Chris Morgan.
Peace.
And who's got the funny log line for tonight?
Thor. Wow. Savior of Asgard.
Yeah. We were trying to come up with a very good Flash Gordon reference there. Came up with that one, so.
And the palace at Asgard looks a lot like Ming's palace anyway. I don't know if that was an intentional
well,
design
I'm going to talk about that style, but I do agree with that, Chris.
Well, you know.
We could have also done the Brian Blessed, Loki's alive.
Gordon?
Oh, man.
That was
That's
it.
a good alternate
That
one,
was
so.
it.
But anyway.
Oh. And once again, I have to say, we are reviewing a Marvel movie on Steve-O's birthday without Steve-O here.
Yeah, well.
We did. So, like, you know, to
He's in his own
anybody-
personal Ragnarok right now.
Yeah, so anybody listening, you know, just if you want to say wish Steve-O a happy birthday.
Or
you know,
don't.
tell him he's a piece of garbage that could be.
Yeah.
Tell him he's a worthless piece of garbage that could be proven mathematically. So.
Yes. Anyway.
Damn, those are harsh words. Let's go for
He'll
some
like
kinder
it.
ones, hopefully. For
Anyway.
everybody in conclusion.
Yes. Well, I will try to use kind of words of that because, it's me on intro. I think it was, I'm going to tell you straight up, I'm going with a 2 probably, and here's why. It was, I think Ian and I said it best on the way back from the theater that it was almost having 2 A plots, and not instead of an A or a B plot. Like, you got the Planet Hulk thing happening, which, yeah, is cool, and then you got the Ragnarok thing obviously happening too, sort of concurrently, and Thor is like very quickly in the intro gets sort of somewhat accidentally exiled to whatever planet that he meets up with Hulk and the Grandmaster and so forth. So like Ragnarok is happening and Hela is just like laying waste and he's not even there for most of it until he finally, of course, gets Banner and Flash the Hulk back on the side and Valkyrie, and they escape from the planet and go back to try to deal with the Ragnarok that's happening. But it's almost as if they could have been 2 separate films, but then maybe not quite, because I don't know if each idea on its own could sustain itself for a whole film.
The middle, so it starts with Ragnarok, it turns into Planet Hulk, and then returns to Ragnarok.
Exactly.
And they might as well have had Meanwhile back at the Twilight of the Gods.
Yes, it did feel like that.
Yeah, so like that's probably why I'm taking a little bit of points away. Like it was a fine narrative, and they were both good stories. It's just that it seems a little, not jarring, but I must have taken some finesse to try to mesh them together.
Like whenever they got back to Hela, it was almost like one of those like she just looks up at the camera, straight at the camera. It's like, "Oh, you guys are back."
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's funny. It's sort of like I did notice that and things like it. So it was a perfectly solid plot, and given that, like I said, they sort of smashed those 2 storylines together. It was a fine film overall, and I enjoyed it a lot. It's just that I think I might deduct points because it feels a little, if not uneven, like. It's weird to have them both together because of that very fact that you just said.
All right. To build, I actually really enjoyed this film. Visually, the fight scenes, all of that. But when we're discussing narrative
exactly.
The title of this movie is Thor Ragnarok. Ragnarok is one of the greatest myths of all time. It's such an important, and it takes a back seat for a good hour of this film. Mm-hmm. And to do something exciting that I enjoyed watching, but I feel like it's a sin to ignore the end of a civilization.
Or like undercover the fact of Ragnarok. I
would have
agree.
helped to like if they were going to drag since they had to drag it out by going back and forth between Planet Hulk. I think it would have helped if she didn't kill the army so fast.
Yeah.
Like if they had like more of a resistance going, like the Warriors 3 died heroically instead of in 2 seconds.
Like I get it, it's to set up her power and like how big of a threat she is, but at the same time,
they made her too powerful right off the bat.
Kind of exactly.
They said that she was starting off weakened and slowly growing stronger while she was in Asgard. They could have powered her down a little more and then had her eventually get to
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree. I mean, they should call it Hulknarok, I guess, because that's really what it is. But, I mean, it was still very enjoyable, and I will lay out more reasons why. But for the intro body conclusion, I think I'm going to stay with a solid 2.
I agree.
I'm going to give it a 3 because to me, it's an exile and return film. And I can't remember, there's another film that did it just as well. Where
a Marvel film?
No, it was. I'm trying to remember. I've been racking my brain because it just occurred to me that it is like an exile and then a return film. So I agree with you that they might have made Lady Death. That's right.
No, Hela.
That's right.
Goddess of Death.
Goddess of Death. A little too powerful on the onset. But to me, to be quite honest with you, with these Marvel films and with a lot of superhero films and a lot of things. Rarely do I feel that there's a menace to it. Like one of the reasons, aside from being a really smart, really well written film, one of the reasons that I find, Winter Soldier to be like the gold standard for this thing and just a great movie in itself is I felt that there was real jeopardy. I was really concerned about all the characters, and I didn't know at any time what could happen. I knew they would probably not kill off certain people, but there was a menace to this. Like I never really worry about the villains in all these films because I'm like, I know they're going to prevail, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like how well they do it. I really felt that she was a menace. I really felt that, oh my God, Idris Elba's character. Yeah. I was worried that he might die. I was actually, and I loved Banner's arc. I thought he was phenomenal. I wish they had done a little more or maybe it was kind of cool that he just jumped out of the plane and, is he ever going to be able to be Bruce Banner again? But I did feel that, and a lot of this is going to be connected to themes, but I did feel like it was an exile and return film. I enjoyed every moment of this film, and, it's getting a 3 for me.
I absolutely agree with the exile and return plot line. It was actually really well done. If it was an A and B plot.
Yes.
If it had because in the original Thor movie is an exile and return plot as well. He is exiled to Midgard, has to return to this. It has such. It should have such weight behind it. And you're right. They did a good job of raising the stakes of people dying in this, but it felt like it was just. Rushed through. They rushed to Ragnarok, and it's
and
just.
You cannot forgive that.
Yeah, I mean,
I get you.
Yeah, they did put a lot in this film, but like the first Thor film was the Asgard stuff was really cool, and the Earth stuff was uneven. And it's not just Natalie Portman. I'm just saying it's like they got to Earth, and it was like, all right, we're setting up the Avengers now. Like the diner scene where he's like, "This is great," with the coffee and smashes. It was like to me the most memorable, most enjoyable scene on Earth. Like everything else I remember about Thor, the original one. So I think this was a really better executed exile and return film. So,
I get you. I'm still sticking with solid 2. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just taking points here and there, like I said, and basically what he said as well.
Yeah, you guys, you two definitely convinced me to give this a 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So 3 2s and a 3.
So, where are we going?
I believe it's Chris for themes, as you were just mentioning.
Themes, I'm getting a lot of redemption on this. Again, we
Revention is what I'm going with.
A revention, yeah. But no, I mean, there is a lot of redemption going on. I mean, there's Valkyrie, there's Thor, there is Loki, there's even the Hulk. I mean, because, the Hulk, being the Hulk accepting Bruce Banner, like we've always tried to see Bruce Banner try to accept the Hulk. We had the Hulk try to accept Bruce Banner. And I really just, I was engaged with these characters. And like I said, in a way, I enjoy these films. I really do. But I was engaged in the characters in a way that I haven't really been in a long time. And I really did care about all their arcs. And I felt that it was just various forms of redemption, maybe revenge.
Well, they even named themselves the Revengers.
Yeah, the Revengers.
In there.
But I really, and obviously sacrifice because, did Bruce Banner sacrifice himself to forever being the Hulk? They had to sacrifice Asgard. It's getting a fairly strong 1 for me. Like I said, it's not anything that I could say, hey, we're pulling this out of thin air. I felt like every one of the major or major supporting characters, our heroes had a definite arc, and it was all kind of in the same direction, just different paths.
Yeah, I don't disagree with like a lot of that, but I'm sort of going to give you the other side of the coin in a sense, and channel E, and maybe you'll say this shortly, that compared to, you brought up Winter Soldier, I believe, just earlier, and Civil War as well, or I'm going to, if not, but you brought up one of them.
I did.
That compared to, like, I'm going to have to judge it a bit more harshly in the Marvel, the whole work of it, the entire MCU, because while I agree that stuff was there, Chris, it sort of was, like, surfacely there, and I'm not saying that, like, it skimmed over or anything like that. It was there, yeah, but was it the point of the... Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's enough, like, if it's as deep as they could have or have done before, even though that stuff was totally there and I could see it. And, like, I would say even, like, within that, maybe, like, coming together to defend a threat to your home, more or less, was what was happening.
But see, that's usually the thing, especially in the Avengers movie, coming together to... I mean, like I said, but my whole thing is, and we did compare it to the Winter Soldier, so...
All right.
So I'm waiting for E.
Sorry.
Because I know he's got something.
I'm going pretty deep here. And I'm not sure if this was the intention behind it, but I actually think it was because of certain lines of dialogue that went through. There is a discussion about inevitability, determinism, and free will in here. And don't laugh, because it's actually
no. I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing in a mocking way. I'm like, wow, okay.
Hela, right from the beginning, with the fact of Odin and Hela, and the idea of death being an unstoppable force, no matter whether you're an alien god-like creature or not, is this thing coming for you. And she's, in a sense, an unstoppable force here. What it comes down to is the discussion between Thor and Loki, though, and the fact that they're playing roles in a story that not only has been told for thousands of years amongst humans in the story of Ragnarok, but has been explored in comic books. And what role are they stuck playing the role of Thor being this heroic figure,
and Loki always being the trickster,
Loki the trickster who's going to betray them. Loki in the end has to bring about Suitor in order to. But the idea is that whether they're fulfilling a prophecy or not, it's the intention behind what you're doing that matters for it. They go through all of Thor losing his eye. This is all like mythological based. This is predestined to happen. Odin dying initially, that's predestined to happen. The fact they don't have Baldur in this world or whatever, that's important. But the wolf Fenris comes back. But the thing is, it's Loki and Thor playing off each other, and in a way, Loki deciding. And I think Loki is the most important character in this.
He's definitely a pivotal character.
This is the finale of his arc, where he chooses to be the hero by fulfilling his mischievous destiny. But the fact is, it's not that because Ragnarok's a cycle. Ragnarok happened over and over again. This is, in a sense, the twilight of Ragnarok. It destroyed Asgard completely. And although they went through all the motions, their intention this time, and it says, like, I felt, broke that cycle.
I mean, that's really good.
And the fact that they discuss it, they bring it up amongst each other very quickly, but they still, I think that was the forethought going into this.
It's funny because I didn't mention this precast to any of you guys, but I did have that thought where facing your predestination, like you're foretold a destiny, like there's a prophecy happening, and it's that means it's foretold that it's pre-decided, as you said. So I like that angle a lot. That may push me over because I was wavering on themes. It may have pushed me over to it because while I don't think maybe it's the biggest intent of the film, it certainly was there, contained there, and you're right about the character arcs, which we'll probably talk about shortly. But I think you might convince me on that one to give it a solidish one for things.
And the reason I'm laughing is because I'm an asshole. I can't believe I didn't. That was right in front of me the whole time.
Too smart for you.
And no, it's just like, all right, I took the lowest common thematic element as opposed to, holy shit, I can't,
It's Waldo-esque.
And I don't feel I'm stretching it. I feel that there's enough there to feel that there was an intention.
I think you're
but that's
solid.
why I started laughing, because I'm like, I'm an asshole because, oh my God.
He couldn't see that.
Yeah.
I don't think I can add on to that.
Give it a one, though?
That'll be one for me.
Right. Very nice.
So it goes to
I think it's to you, right? Indeed, yes.
Antagonist. Death.
Yep, good answer, Rich.
Yeah,
goddess
of death. She was a good antagonist. I wish we spent more time with her to really flesh out her motivations more. I mean,
I think they were clear enough, but
yeah, I know you can only really take I'm angry at Dad for betraying me. as far.
I guess, but think of it this way.
Enough.
Actually, speaking of that, and what you just said, it's that, yeah, but also like that was her destiny as well to come back and like play a part of Ragnarok. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I think that
true, and I mean, she was super powerful. The huge threat, just like killed off all of his supporting cast.
Yep.
As soon as she set foot on Asgard.
Yep.
And I guess she was serviceable.
I mean, I like Kate Blanchett a lot. I think she did a good job. She was like, I wouldn't say she's over the top, but she was clearly, I think, having like fun with the role, like being this character in this universe. And
she was the anti-Galadriel.
Kind of, yeah. Which I was going to like try to work in Lord of the Rings as well to logline or something, but because I did notice a quick parallel, or like, you know, just reminding me that just because he happened to be a similar-ish role in both franchises.
Plus, I do expect that she's still alive.
Yeah, I most certainly think she's going to show up in Infinity War. I agree with that. But yeah, like you said, she was very effective. She was one of the most powerful antagonists we've seen, like just because of the nature of who she is, and like it's not on Earth, so she's not just your regular like villain.
So, especially the fact that the heroes actually don't really defeat her. They have to take a third option.
Yeah, exactly. They have to bring in some other like Deus Ex, Davos Ex Machina to...
It's like, wait a second. Let's destroy the world.
Yeah. Like, yeah. So that way the prophecies are fulfilled, but we still get to live, more or less. And yeah, I mean, she had a lot of personality to her, even though I do agree, Rich, that it would have been nice to see a little bit more of that. But clearly, I think she did command the screen when she was on.
What I would have liked is to have some flashbacks of her and Odin.
Yeah.
When they were running.
That would have been nice.
Yeah, that would have been great.
To show what Asgard was like before.
I mean, really, this movie could have been like this movie could have been hour and a half longer. And
I don't know
adding
about
all
that, but...
No, adding all the things like fleshing out and really, or making this 2-part. I mean, I think there's a lot of story. I love what they did with what they had, but this was interesting enough where I would have sat through more of the movie.
Well, think this way real quick. If they removed the Planet Hulk stuff and just had used the time to do that.
So she's the antagonist of A Plot A.
Yes.
The antagonist of A Plot B is Jeff Goldblum.
I was going to save him from supporting though.
No, but he's legitimately the antagonist of that section of for half the movie.
Yeah, and they share the role. Yeah,
and the problem is, I love both of these characters, and I'm hoping that both. I want to see Jeff Goldblum and Benicio del Toro, like talking.
I think I said that, but yeah, I would love to see it.
And I'm taking the Baron Mordo route with this one. I love what they set up for Kate Blanchett's Hela. I want to explore her character more. I think it's very important too. I think that kind of having her, like Thor is a good guy, Loki as the kind of neutral character, and Hela as the great evil is a great dynamic to explore. I'm hoping they bring her. I hope she becomes the lover of Thanos down the line.
Some speculation about that.
I don't know how. Just because of the division I brought up in the Dramatic Conclusion aspect, whether I can give either one of them a strong one, because they're that great antagonists for half movies.
Well, that's you sort of answered your own question, or at least I would phrase it to you this way: even if you can't give her or Jeff Goldblum as Grandmaster each, you can a 1 each. You can give them 0.5, equaling a 1. I think because yes, you're right. That is true. He had to share duties like in the Planet Hulk section, if you will, portions. He is the antagonist, and I think he was good. Again, also he's Jeff Goldblum, and he's not phoning it in. So
if you think about it, Hela really set into effect the circumstances that made him the antagonist.
Exactly, kind of like sort of accidentally, but still. So I think they, if not like 1 each, I think they definitely deserve a 0.5, equaling a 1.
And
for their within their stories,
and the fact that Valkyrie lost her fight or chose exile in her fight with Hela, that all of a sudden she became kind of in a way worked for Jeff Goldblum's character. So in another way,
that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. So like it's like Hela's wrath. Like this was the ripple effect of her. Like it continued to Jeff Goldblum's character.
Good call, guys. You convinced me.
Yeah. Like while it would have been nice to my final thoughts on the thing is it would have been nice to have a little bit more of each. What was there was good enough, I think, and combined to give it a 1.
I do have to say, even though I guess it was pretty much meant as a joke when the Grandmaster gets caught at the end by the scavengers, and he like says that the revolution is a tie.
Yeah,
I didn't probably like the most badass threat in a joking way that I've ever heard. Where it just implies that he's just like, all right, you guys had your fun.
Yeah.
Time to knit this in the book.
We'll call it a tie. Yeah, I did like that line. That's right, Richard. Good call. But yeah, so 1 for me. I think 1 for all of us for Antag.
All right. You know with Protag.
Thor. We've seen Thor quite a bit.
Lord of
now.
Thunder.
Yeah, Lord of Thunder. Throughout.
His fingers sparkle.
This one, he starts off as Thor, becomes Raiden for a little bit.
Oh my god. Yes.
Yeah, obviously. And then regains his... He learns to cope with the loss of his hammer and his father, because that's actually that's one of my favorite symbolic parts. Like, obviously, I have this theme of like the loss of the hammer, and the Rockman, Korg just points it out. This would be a good symbolism for
yeah. They lampshaded themselves. Yeah, true.
But like, so you have. I feel like I've been through this arc with Thor before, though.
Okay, go on.
The idea of him having to learn to grow up and rule. And this is like it has the loss of his father, which is more impactful, but this is a retread of Thor 1 and Thor 2.
I disagree slightly.
Okay.
I mean, with the first one, at least with the first two movies, he was getting to a point where he knew enough about himself to know that he wasn't fit to rule, or that it wasn't really for him at this moment.
Right. Yeah.
And I think this was the deciding factor in him learning that there is no right time for you to become king and rule these people. You just have to step up when the moment comes.
So what seems to be the plot of Black Panther.
Yes.
Perhaps.
I mean, it's just like, this is in a weird way the completion of his arc. But to be honest with you, this is the only time I've actually really given a shit about Thor. To be honest with you, I mean, the other two Thor films were basically... I saw Dark World, and I remember visually enjoying it, but I don't remember a goddamn thing about it.
Yeah.
The first Thor film was like... I enjoyed it more than most people, but still, it's not a memorable film. This film, I really cared about his journey. And even if it was a retread, it was kind of like, I took it like as a... We're doing it right this time, so just forget the first two films, even though they exist in canon, and let's just focus on Thor. I really cared about Thor this time.
I guess I wouldn't go as far as what you just said at the end there, but I would agree that I was the most invested in Thor as a character in this movie than I've ever been, even in the Avengers movies as well, previous to this. So, like, yes, you're right. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, it's kind of harsh on that angle that it's kind of that, but as Rich said, he does at least grow. He's more than he was before, even though it was like a broad retread or a broad recycle of the same general arc. I still think it was enough growth there, and that, yeah, I guess when facing the destruction of your homeland,
and it was also him finding his inner strength.
Yeah, that's going to push you forward to find exactly that, I would say. So I think I enjoyed, Chris Hemsworth always plays a pretty good Thor, and I kind of like some of the more jokey things they did, even though, again, yes, it was set against a serious backdrop. But I still think, as you said, Chris, the fact that I was invested in his character as a Marvel heavy, if you will, that I, in a way, wasn't previous to this one, that I think I'm going to give him a solid one, if not a soft one maybe, but still one.
I mean, when we discussed Ant-Man, I mean, these Marvel films are, in a way, formulaic, and I think a lot of times they're very smart about, like with Ant-Man and Guardians, and with this, and with Winter Soldier, really kind of cutting the suit to fit the character, the story. It's like this approach isn't going to take place with this character. And the reason I liked Ant-Man so much is because I was invested in his character. And I don't often, it's like with Spider-Man, I was invested in his character. But in a lot of these Marvel movies, it's not, it's kind of like you're watching it and having fun, but I'm not always invested. So the fact that they really got me invested in Thor in this one, the third movie in the Thor, they finally got me invested in it.
Well, because they made him, not a buffoon, but he took on heavy, like, Mr. Bean-like traits of breaking things constantly and, like, whoops.
It's like slapstick shit. Yeah, and I did notice that.
But the thing is, that was his role in basically all the Avenger movies, is he was just like another version of Hulk, which is really funny why they paired the two of them, because he was always kind of like lightning and break shit.
But I don't really remember being like that obvious, though, in the other films.
It wasn't as in your face, I guess we'll say.
Well, it's because he had to share screen time with like 6 other people.
But all he does is share screen. Like, the thing is, like, Thor doesn't. I think they tried to give him a defining trait here of being a lovable goof, which he wasn't particularly beforehand. And Thor is an interesting character. I think Chris Hemsworth does a great job with what he has, but Thor is more interesting to pair other characters off, to explore Hulk through how he's similar to Thor, to explore Loki through how, like, Thor, because
their relationship, yeah.
But it also reflects back to Thor, though.
Yeah, but I think that he's, I don't know.
He's a better sounding board to bounce things off of.
Yeah.
It's harsh because I totally see what you mean, and you're right about a lot of it. It's just that maybe subjectively for me in this one, because as I agreed with Chris, that I was indeed more invested and cared more about Thor as a character versus all the other characters that I would choose above him in the MCU. Mm-hmm. I think it's just if I might have said this before, it limps over the line into a 1. So like I said, soft 1 maybe, but it's enough there for me to give him credit for protag.
I'm going to give it a soft 0 because I don't think it did enough new to warrant
That's
a
fair.
full 1.
And I totally see that side too.
I'm definitely giving it a 1.
Damn it, Ian.
That's a good argument, Shadi.
Oh. I'm gonna give him a 1. I like where his character ended in this. And I'm excited to see where they take him after, like with the Infinity War movies.
I actually want to see another Thor movie after this.
I might get that wish.
Yeah.
I'd be more inclined to, for sure. I was, to be fair, my closing thought is I was looking forward to Ragnarok specifically because it was going to focus on him, and I was interested to see what they did with them. And while you might not have thought it was the best or the potential, I still think they did enough with it, as Rich has said, that's my reasoning.
And Rich, you did bring me precariously close to a 1 with your argument.
I think you guys are almost on the verge of convincing each other there. Sure.
Could you imagine if we both just switched? It's like, now I convinced you to give it a 1.
It's happened before,
I'm going to
man.
give it a 0.
We've set precedent for that kind of thing, but sure. In this case.
So Scott, you're up with supporting.
All right, man. Yeah, I really like the supporting cast in this. It's always like going to be generally true that Marvel movies have a pretty solid supporting cast, but I think this one was particularly strong. Again, for me, I liked Tessa Thompson, I believe, as Valkyrie a lot. I really liked, she's hard drinking, like she's haunted by the original, like the first iteration of Ragnarok, I guess we'll say. Of course, I liked Krag, I believe his name was Korg. Loki, I think, was the standout supporting character. In fact, you could almost make a maybe case that it was a buddy film, but it's not quite there. Hulk, of course, and Banner. Ruffalo was always good as him. I think I like what they did with him not knowing that he was Hulk for so long. Yeah. That he it's been 2 years and that he's been stuck in his place the whole time. And
I love the fact that Thor gave no shits about him freaking out that he's been gone for 2 years.
Yeah. And
he goes, I'm on another planet. Yeah. He goes, I've only ever been on 1 planet. Well, now you've been on 2.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? You're traveling. Yeah, so I'm trying to think who else. I guess I like Scourge, I think the guy's name was. And Idris as Hemdall, I believe. What's his character name? He's always really cool, and I just like that character from the original source myth in reality as well. So I think they all did a damn good job. My standout, I think like I said, was Loki. Tom Hiddleston is always sort of like going to steal the show somewhat, and definitely Hopkins as Odin, and of course a shout out to my boy Sam Neill as the fake Odin in the fake play that was going on. Like that was a nice cameo. Yeah, they all did a damn great job though, and I think they worked really well. And like you said, they were sort of sounding boards for each other a lot, which I think that dynamic was well done, and it made a lot of sense. I didn't question anything like why is this character here, why they're doing this, why they're doing that. Everyone gave a great performance, and I think the secondary supporting cast deserves a damn solid 1.
I agree. I loved the new additions. I loved Valkyrie.
Yep.
Since her introduction scene, and like she just kept the laughs going. Hulk was fantastic. I liked how they explored I like them exploring his personality more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like separate from Banner.
Yeah.
And just like seeing how like lonely he actually is, and like wanting to be accepted and loved, and him just saying, "No, I'm not leaving Sakaar. Like people love me here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they have parades in my honor. Yeah. It's like they're building me a monument as we speak."
And phone call from Asgard.
Phone call from DC.
I always turn that thing off. I don't know how.
Not always. Go on.
Sorry about that.
Go on.
The one thing I thought was interesting about Hulk was when to build on what you were saying was when Thor keeps referring to Hulk as, "Hey, we're friends from work. We're a friend." He goes, "You're not friend with Hulk. You're a friend with Banner." And I just love the fact that in this one, like I said, building on that, Banner didn't recognize Hulk, but Hulk recognized Banner. And I thought, I agree with you 100% on the supporting characters. I also have to give a shout out. I really like Doctor Strange in this.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't feel tacked on. Beth and I were talking about this on the way home.
Go on, though.
Because we saw it set up at the end of...
at the end of Doctor Strange.
At the end of Doctor Strange.
It was the same fucking scene.
Yeah, but like at the end of Ant-Man with Civil War, it wasn't like a, hey, build up. It was an excerpt of what was actually in the next film. And I like the fact that, all right, here's Strange talking to a god, and he, Thor's like, well, we have wizards now? And Strange has that, his ego's returned, but his ego is now channeled differently. It's not about him, it's about protecting his Earth. And like, he's not putting up with this bullshit.
I love how much of a petty person he was the entire time they were together.
Yeah, and I like where we're like, Loki's like about to attack and goes, okay, bye-bye, and he swooshes them both off. I mean, and my favorite cameo, I have to say, that was completely unexpected was Black Widow's. The fact that message that she sent in Ultron actually showed up. It actually had a point in a plot point. Yeah. I thought that was really cool, and I will count that as a cameo, even it was kind of pre-recorded.
Still,
because I that was one thing that really knocked me off my,
What I love the most about this scene is Hulk fighting the change back to Banner.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like a mirror to Banner fighting the change in the Hulk.
Exactly.
It's just like, no, Banner, no.
Yeah. Exactly, and right. I'm glad you guys. I was going to mention that. I forgot to. When he sees Natasha, that he starts getting, he's getting sentimental and sad, which thus reverting him to Banner, and Hulk does not want that to happen. So it was a nice perfect little character moment for him, and like I said, everything else was really great. So,
what's the population of Asgard?
Seemed like a
500.
Is there any official number?
Right?
Is there any official number from the comics?
But you also have to figure out how many people she killed in the interim.
Well, sure. This is what I'm attempting to do because it looks like there's a couple of plot points here though so Asgard doesn't look that big.
Nope.
It never has though.
It doesn't. Yeah. But so all these people are hiding out, and it's like I'm looking for all those survivors like Hela was, and I'm like I don't have no idea where they are. Have you checked all 5 rooms? And that's what it kind of feels like. It's like
that closet in the back that everybody forgets is there.
There's that big the gateway in the mountain. Sure.
It's literally a 5-minute walk.
The mines of Moria.
You know what I think it was? Since Heimdall can see everything, it was probably just like a game of when they're trying to chase somebody around the car.
No, it's like the Scooby-Doo thing where they're walking from one room to another.
Yeah.
But the thing is, normally I might give actually. All right, so was Skagar? Was that the Skagar? That felt like a really fleshed out world, which was very interesting, and I loved the society they built upon living in a planetary garbage dump. But I never felt Asgard was a real location that is fully lived in. It felt like it was
that's an album cover from the 80s.
But also, if you think about it this way, I mean, as they've talked about, 1,000 years for these people, 10,000 years for these people is a year for us, maybe. Maybe more than that. So you got to figure out. You think about if this place has been there for millions and millions of years, and these people have been alive effectively for millions of years, the population growth shouldn't be that big because they'd kind of run out of room.
But I think in all 3 Thor movies, something attacked Asgard and
That's true. And Thor: The Dark World, they had a shit ton of boats that they were sending off into the.
It also
I guess it's a little unclear the size and
so I guess
capacity of Asgard.
Maybe Odin's pulling like a 1984 where he just has something come to call the population
every 1,000 years or whatever.
Every couple of millennia.
Yeah. So anyway,
Thor 4, the culling.
Well, I'm going to adjust one of those points shortly thereafter, but I'm sticking with a solid 1 for supporting.
Me too.
Just a nitpick.
But I was going to say it also kind of reminded me looking back on it because the room where the Eternal Flame was and where. What's his name? Yeah, the trophy room was kind of under the city, and I immediately thought of the Stranger City and Dark City.
Yes.
The way it was set up. So,
sure.
I have a question though. What about the prisoners that were down there? Did they just say fuck them? And
no, Asgardian Holocaust, Rich. I don't know. I didn't even think about it, but it's actually a valid point, perhaps.
I do have just one.
Okay.
Surtur with his like he's an Ultron like character of just or a Pinhead like character from the just wanting to give speeches and be a badass, and to see one of these types of characters finally get their wish of just destroying everything.
I love it.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
I guess we count him as a secondary.
He's so happy, and then like noticing that nobody's paying attention, but like not even caring.
Yeah. No, good stuff. I guess we count him as a secondary, and I certainly will.
I love the start of Hulk's fight, or the start of Hulk's fight with him.
Yeah. That's good.
I was actually hoping Hulk would ruin it.
Yes,
yeah.
I thought when he did that punch, he was gonna like knock the helmet off, and then Hela was gonna come back to power.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, one for secondary for me, and for everybody it seems.
Yeah. So, Chris, you with dialogue.
We've been talking about dialogue throughout this. It's obviously definitely getting one from me. I don't really know much more to add because the dialogue. I mean, just because what Ian was talking about with themes, the dialogue between, Loki and Thor, and between Thor and Valkyrie, and I mean, Thor in a lot of ways was the nexus. I mean, it was his story as much as everybody else's. But just, I mean, aside from the lines, like, yes, he's a friend of mine from work, and the funny stuff that Korg was saying, and all the little quips. There was a lot of really good ideas going on that weren't so quotable, so to speak, but really got you involved. And I can't believe with all this that I couldn't pick out the goddamn themes that you picked up, because all this dialogue, the really character stuff, you're so involved in, you don't see the forest through the trees. I really have to definitely give it a 1, because it's a quotable movie, but like with Ian's themes, I'm sorry I keep bringing it back, Ian. I'm not just praising you for no reason, but
you can do that as well.
That was this is a reason. I think that really lays into why the dialogue is really effective in this.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add either. A lot of the jokes hit for me, which was saying it's a very funny movie, but not it's not. It's hard to say, it's not slapstick, although it sometimes is as well. Yeah. Just that, like you said, the quips are coming, but you made me think of something, so I'll tie it in as well. That Hela gives a speech when she comes to power, comes back to Asgard. She smashes down the big mural, the sort of stained glass stuff, and behind it you see the actual story of how Odin and her built the 9 realms. And she's like, yeah, you think it was all meetings and parties? No, it's bloodshed, it's war. We brought war to people. Where do you think all this gold came from? Mm-hmm. So I like that stuff too. That was some of the more serious stuff. And yeah, it kept it self-sustaining. Of course, like I said, when Jeff Goldblum as Grandmaster was on, just pontificating to people, it was amazing, all the time.
Doing his Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, exactly. His Jeff Goldblum alien impression. So it was really great. And everyone else, Valkyrie had some great stuff too. And just the interactions between people, Banner or Hulk and Thor, just sort of chilling, and Hulk came down and he's trying to explain what happened to him and stuff, and they're trying to connect sort of. So it was all damn well done and snappy when it needed to be, and made sense, like I said. And I think, as you guys mentioned, these sort of centerpiece is the interactions and the dynamic between Loki and Thor a lot of times. So all that stuff, I'm going to give it a damn solid 1.
And one thing I wanted to say was that the little things, the callbacks weren't all winks and nods. Like the whole thing where Thor couldn't remember his passcode for the plane. He's just Point Break.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was a good one. That's one line. That
made me laugh a lot, actually. Yeah.
Me too. That was one line from the Avengers, which was a movie 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was just this. It was great. I just thought
that was good stuff. Yeah. Good connectivity.
Nice world building.
I mean, you guys said a lot about it already. If they ever do a Independence Day 3, I hope it involves the Grandmaster's world attacking Earth, so we can have Jeff Goldblum.
That'd be the greatest crossover ever.
And then have Jeff Goldblum from Earth, Women Are Easy show up.
Oh my god!
Yes. We're going to write that soon as well.
See, I think that would make it better, inside. The John Malkovich movie.
It could be the 9 realms of Jeff Goldblum, where all of Jeff Goldblum's characters come out and do battle with each other.
Goldblum.
Oh my god, he's had such a varied character career.
Well, yeah, and you can have Seth Brundle, trying to fuck everybody up.
Yes, but we will be writing that. We'll write that soon, and but I'm still giving dialogue.
Yeah, I'm giving dialogue a 1.
All right.
So it brings me to style, and this is where I'm torn.
Really? Go on.
So I loved the style of this movie. The colors, the music, everything, the effects, everything that was filmed. The thing that bothered me the most is I think it was too much of a comedy in points when it should not have been. There were like the one part in particular that sticks out is when Korg is giving that speech about the foundation of Asgard and how as long as it stands, they have something to build upon. And then it immediately ruins the moment of Asgard being destroyed with his joke, and then just cuts to black.
But also the foundation is also the people, and it's
I get it.
I get that, but like that's
no, I understand. I understand. No, but I understand your point.
That was a jarring moment. I did notice that outright in the theaters, Rich. True. The thing is, like as you said, though, everything else, like the vibrant colors, the color palette, like just the way, mirrored some of the stuff from the comics, and even I would say, I think the joke I made was like shots to Asgard, and some of the fights were almost like 80s metal album covers, like to me. And the soundtrack was great. So I think while there were moments like that Korg thing, and a couple others in between, and I do agree that perhaps it was a little bit more lighthearted at times than it should have had the right to be.
Because for a movie that's called Ragnarok, it should have some weight to it. More so than...
Yeah, well, that's why I deducted sort of points from the intro about conclusion, sort of. But I see your point to this one. I just think that the pitfalls, or like the potholes that it fell into, were few and far between enough for me that the rest of it was still damn well done, and I enjoyed it enough to give it probably a solid 1.
I'm actually going to give an example to what I think you're talking about, or what it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one scene where Valkyrie is scrapping with Loki, and Loki basically mind melds her or whatever up and sees
to our darkest fear,
sees the Ride of the Valkyries, which
80s album cover, by the way.
Yeah, it is a beautiful artwork that went into there, but there's hefty weight, and you see where you've seen Hela be dangerous prior to this, not like when she's mowing down an entire battalion on Pegasus' back, riding. It's a gloriously horrific scene, and the thing is, like, that's in that moment. I think you can see everything that could have the weight that this movie could have had, and that it lacked in other spots.
And I feel like they didn't spend enough time to carry the somberness of that scene over more. Like she, like almost immediately afterwards, just like, that's why I drink, and just like moves on. I mean, which makes sense for her character, but like,
it's jarring again.
Yeah, it's jarring, and I think it would have serviced them better to have that be the start of Loki's heel face turn, where he's just like, he sees like what she went through, and he's just like, oh goddamn, like, and like have him start becoming more of a hero.
Yeah, it's not that I disagree with you guys about those points. I just think there are a few, like you just said, two things, and yes, they were jarring. Don't get me wrong, I noticed that as well. It's just that it's not enough for me to outweigh the other things I really enjoyed about it, and even especially the design.
I was just more so using those two things as like an example, but like, sure, I feel like
there are other moments like it for sure. It's just that it's weird because maybe I'm a bit more wavering than I was, but for me, I did enjoy a lot of the style throughout overall, even if perhaps they did misstep maybe more than I thought originally here and there.
So Hela can annihilate anything she chooses. She has Fenris, which is the least effective giant wolf I've seen.
Well, true, that's funny. I did like the look of the giant wolf, even though it didn't do much.
She gets there and then turns Asgard into the Dark Souls video game with all the resurrected zombie troops with glowy eyes. I don't know, it's just... Yeah. Rich, you might have got me on that because I think that I think they had such great ideas going into this. And I think that they knew how to do comedy. They knew how to do kind of the great action scenes.
The epic stuff, yeah.
I don't think they knew how to maybe pace them properly or when
to switch tones. Yeah. You got like...
Because I feel like this had... I feel like
it's
this
tough,
was
man.
Kind of going through jokes faster than the Guardians do. And that's...
You do not want that in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
You know what?
Especially, and here's another point that I wanted to make. Because Thor's characterization in this, as him being like more jokey, more lighthearted, I think comes not completely out of left field, but to have him be the straight man for most of his characterization, and to have this movie be the one where he's just
he's the opposite of the straight man. Yeah. think you might have got me with that point and the point just before that. As I thought more about it, as you guys were talking, that yeah, I mean, I did like the style. And I was going to give it a 1, but you might have convinced me to bump it down to maybe a soft 0. But you're right. Like, I guess the thing is this, and we said it earlier: if you're going to call your movie Ragnarok, you have to adjust for that tone things. And it was more of a, not whiplash, but I think there was too much of a bit of that lightheartedness, and as you said about Thor's character not quite being what it was before, and that seems a little bit more jarring because of that. So I'm going to change. I'm going to switch over to a soft 0.
I didn't take it the way. I mean, honestly, I didn't take it the way you guys did. I mean, yeah, there are some gravitas that they miss, and I'm sorry, Stanley. I'm really kind of I'm done with his cameos. It's like, all right. I mean, no,
that one was okay. Yeah, it wasn't the best.
They always take me out of the film. I mean, very seldom they do not. And I kind of disagree with you on the Guardians jokes, because Guardians 2, to be honest with you, to me is over time become a forgettable movie. It's kind of like a lot. I felt like they tried a lot harder there. In this one, everything felt a lot more organic. But also, I watched Taka. Oh, I'm going to screw up. Is that
the director?
The director, Taka Waititi.
TW.
The film he and Jermaine Clement did, What We Do in the Shadows, which is a mockumentary on these vampires. And to me, it's with that one in itself, I feel like, it could have been a little longer and explored some stuff. But I feel like for what was there in that one, it really mixed the comedy and the poignancy. And I can't overlook the fact that, aside from this being a beautiful looking movie, the fact that I was so invested in all these characters, except for there are certain things that, pacing wise, they could have always done more to it and add more gravitas. But for what was there, I was invested. I cared. I was not jarred. The only thing that really jarred me, that took me out of the film, was Stan Lee's cameo. Honestly, I mean, because I'm a fan of this director. I'm a fan of him, and I thought, like I said, I thought he did a good job. I see your points, and I can't disagree with them. So maybe I'm going to give it a softer one. That maybe it's not as strong, but I can't get over the fact that, out of all the Marvel movies, I think this is one of the top 3 I enjoyed the most.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe the first Guardians, Ant-Man, this, and Winter Soldier. Maybe the first Avengers, or like those to me are the standouts of the Marvels.
Okay, yeah, like I said, don't get me wrong, it was a great looking movie, and the shots were amazing. But I think, given the angle that we're approaching it from, that's why I switched over. So.
And are we counting like Spider-Man as like a Marvel movie, or is it like a half and half? Okay.
Yeah, it counts.
All right, so that's number 6. I actually like that. No,
duly noted.
No, but there's been, like, as somebody said before, there's like 17 of these so far. So like the fact that like a third of them really affected me in that way, it's not bad.
All right.
And I probably like Iron Man 3 more than most people. So
okay then.
All right, so that brings us to Ian with recommendation.
As much as I've pointed out the flaws of this film,
it's out of love.
Yes, in a sense it is. I really enjoyed this film. I never found myself, and when I start slipping into boredom, this movie knew when to make it engaging again. Like they threw in like an action scene to bring me back in. This is a great, like, middle of the day movie to watch on like Netflix type thing, like while you're doing other things. I fully recommend this movie because it's a fun action adventure, but it's not necessarily narrative wise the best structured film I've seen. But I think that the director was very talented. I feel like this is almost the work of a raw director, and that with a little bit more polish, he can make something that's incredible. But it's just not there yet, and that's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just
he's working towards it.
This is a good movie, and we'll get a recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to recommend it, but sort of in the same vein that it's a great, entertaining, and fun movie to watch. And perhaps, as I said, and maybe someone else mentioned, that nowadays I judge things a little bit more harshly, especially against the entire weight of the 17 previous films, etc. But I still definitely recommend it, and my own personal scales become, would I see it again? Yeah, I would definitely see Ragnarok again. Yeah. So yeah, it was a well done Marvel movie. It had its flaws, as we said, here and there, but overall, it's damn fun to watch, and it's damn cool.
It's one of the things that got me, and I think this kind of goes to the weight of most of my favorite Marvel films, is there's no fucking MacGuffin. Like the Infinity Stones were in the background because
Ragnarok itself is the fucking MacGuffin.
Yeah, well,
but I see your point.
But that's the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
like look at the first Guardians. You've got as much as I like that, you've got the Infinity Stone. As much as I like the first Avengers, you got the Infinity Stone. You know,
2 Infinity Stones.
2 Infinity Stones, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's just like this one is one of the few films that didn't have that as the MacGuffin. It was actually, which is why I think this is why I keep going back to maybe Winter Soldier and Ant-Man. And, you know, even the first and third Iron Mans, I mean, it did not feel like we're setting up to the Avengers. It didn't feel like, except for that after credit scene, it didn't really feel like, hey, this is fodder for the Infinity War. You know, like the first Thor felt like, hey, we're gathering the Avengers.
No, you're right.
Together.
There's a very nice self-contained story. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, I mean, I enjoyed this film immensely. I really honestly didn't know what to expect going into it. As I said before, I've become a fan of the director. I agree with you. I think given a couple more movies, he's going to probably be one of the standout directors. But I cannot recommend this film enough. I will definitely see it. I was thoroughly entertained. I really gave a shit about all these characters and what was going on. And I really appreciate them breaking away from the goddamn, you know, MacGuffin thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this movie. It's, well, as much as I talked about style purely for story reasons, but it's beautiful movie. I would love
great looking.
Yeah, I would love to see it in 3D if possible before it's out of theaters. And yeah, it was just a fun time. I liked all the characters. I like where they ended up. And like you said, Chris, I like that this was a self-contained movie more so than like a commercial for.
Yeah, exactly. For Infinity War. Yeah. Yep.
So yeah,
I think that's ones all around, right? I believe.
Yep.
So Ian, what's
the final tally, sir?
Aggregate tally.
All right, Chris gave it a 10. Scott and Rich gave it an 8, and I gave it a 7, making the overall score an 8.25.
I think that's probably right. Maybe 8.5 if I had to randomly put another number, but it sits up there. It's a damn good film.
It's a good film.
It has its narrative flaws, as you said, but sure, it's still worth a watch. Definitely.
I don't think you can hate this movie. I think you just like.
Yeah.
You know,
probably if you're not us, you have a great time with this movie. Not even noticing the little things that we noticed.
But the other thing that we've also discussed is according to our scale. Like you gave Wizard of Oz an 8. You hate that movie. I probably would have done the same thing, and I hate the movie. And we've all given films that we like more less of a score. Like with me, with the Army of Darkness, I liked it more than my score. My narrative score may have recommended.
Sure, man.
But you know, I just so I mean. I have to say is I always like to think about like, all right, this is our score based on this scale, but in reality, I think we can all agree it was a fucking great time.
Goddamn solid, for sure.
Fun time of the movies. And that ends our review of Thor Ragnarok. I've been Rich Perry, joined with Ian Manzer.
Been to a land of ice and snow.
Scott Thurlow.
I want to get my own undead giant wolf soon. Good night.
And Chris Morgan.
Loki is alive.
Have a good night, folks.
See you next time.
Editing and engineering by Scott Thurlow. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.